A few months ago, I did an initial review of the adidas Adizero SL2, and in that video, I said that I believed the SL2 was the best daily trainer of 2024. So today, I want to do a long-term review of the Adizero SL2, and after putting more than 125 miles on the shoe, I want to answer the question, do I still believe that the SL2 is the best daily trainer of the year? But before I get into the review of the SL2, I do want to give a quick disclaimer. I did purchase the SL2 with my own money, and the opinions in this video are mine and mine alone. Another thing I want to note is that I am 5'10" and I weigh anywhere from 165 to 170 pounds on any given day. And then lastly, I want to make sure I clearly define what I mean when I'm talking about a daily trainer, especially when I'm talking about a daily trainer that's in contention for best daily trainer of the year or just best daily trainer in general. When I'm talking about daily trainers, I'm talking about a shoe that's roughly priced $100 to $110 US, all the way up to $130. And the brand has specifically made the shoe or segmented the shoe for daily trainer, and or that is how the brand is marketing the shoe. I know that there are a multitude of running shoes out there from a ton of different running brands that can be used as daily trainers, but most of those shoes are anywhere from like $20 to $70 more expensive than the daily trainers I'm talking about. And the brand that is selling that shoe typically isn't segmenting that shoe as a daily trainer, or they're just not even marketing it as a daily trainer. It just so happens that that shoe happens to work as a daily trainer along with whatever the initial intended purpose of that shoe was. All right, so with all of that out of the way, let's get into the long-term review of the Adizero SL2. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I already did an initial review on the adidas Adizero SL2, so I'm not really gonna go into any of the tech specs or really dive deep into that part of the SL2. If you're interested in learning more about this shoe, you can go watch that video. I'll have it linked up above. What I really want to do with this long-term review, or what I try to do with any of my reviews where I'm talking about a running shoe after 100 miles, is more give my long-term opinion on the shoe. And basically I want to give some pros on the shoe, some cons on the shoe, and then whether or not I would still recommend the running shoe for your running shoe rotation. So basically, after putting a lot more miles on the shoe, I want to give you an honest opinion on basically, has my opinion changed on the shoe, whether good or bad, and then things I like about it, as well as things that I'd like to see changed in the next iteration of that shoe. And so let's jump right into it with the pros of the Adizero SL2. The first pro of this shoe is this midsole. I said this in the first video and I'll reiterate it here because I still believe this is true. This is the best Light Strike Pro combination I've ever run with in an Adidas shoe, where you have Light Strike as the carrier foam for this shoe, and then you have the Light Strike Pro foam running the entire length of the shoe within the carrier foam, so that Light Strike foam. You can see the Light Strike Pro here, it's the white foam, and then if you actually look at the outsole, you have some cutouts as well in the front to be able to see the Light Strike Pro, as well as in the back to be able to see the Light Strike Pro as well. Honestly, this midsole absolutely shines on this shoe. It's one of the main reasons I said I believed it was the best daily trainer of 2024, and it honestly is still one of my favorite daily trainer midsole foams or foam kind of combinations that I've ever run in. The energy return and snappiness of this midsole just make it an absolute joy to run the majority of my like easy daily trainer type mileage, which actually gets me to my second pro of the Adizero SL2, and that is the versatility of the shoe. So expanding further on that midsole, the midsole in this shoe, as well as just the entire fit of this shoe, makes it an extremely versatile shoe for pretty much anything you want to do within your training program. I said it in my initial review, and I still believe it to be true after 100 miles. This shoe is extremely versatile and pretty much lets me do anything that I want to do in my training. And if you were looking to have a one shoe running shoe rotation, this is definitely an option I would consider as that one shoe running shoe rotation. I've been able to do all of my recovery to easy runs, to my long runs where I'm picking up the pace a little bit, all the way down to strides. You could do like tempo work if you wanted to, and or intervals in the shoe. It's extremely lightweight, This midsole, like I already said, is extremely responsive and feels really great and is also very versatile. And then the overall fit of the shoe just helps with that good lockdown and the ability to, like I said, pretty much kind of do whatever you want with this shoe. So this is one of those daily trainers that I absolutely love, and mainly because of the fact that I can do so much with it. And then my last pro for the Adizero SL2 is the value of the shoe. So the Adizero SL2 comes in at $130, and honestly, at 125 miles, with the way the outsole looks on the shoe, as well as the minimal creasing and overall compression of the midsole, and then even how the upper is holding up through those first 125 miles, I can easily say that I believe this shoe would get to 300 miles, maybe even 400 if I really wanted to push it. It could probably honestly go further, like if I really wanted to push this shoe. But if you look at that $130 for what you're getting out of the shoe, I mean, first of all, you're getting full length Light Strike Pro. Granted, it is within the carrier foam of the Light Strike, but you are still getting full length Light Strike Pro in the shoe. You're getting an extremely robust and durable outsole, as well as a pretty well-built upper on this shoe. Like, it's great, it's comfortable, it's breathable. It's one of those that, like I said, at that $130 price point, the value and just the overall durability of the shoe definitely make it worth a consideration as a daily trainer in your running shoe rotation and make it a huge pro for the Adizero SL2. All right, so with all of the pros out of the way, let's get into the cons of the adidas Adizero SL2. And one thing I do want to note before I actually get into the cons of the shoe, when I'm talking about these cons, they're not really so much cons, more as just things to consider if you are considering picking up the SL2 to add to your running shoe rotation. So with that, let's get into the first con of the Adizero SL2, which is the sizing of the shoe. So in my initial review, I did state that the shoe runs true to size, which for me would be my usual US men's 10.5 standard. And while I still do agree that I believe the shoe does run true to size, as in I've put 125 miles on the shoe and had absolutely no issues, and I'll easily be able to put 300 to 400 miles in the shoe with no sizing issues. Like, I'm not having any blistering or bruising or anything like that with the shoe. I will say that I do believe it fits a little tight and almost a little narrow. So when I do finally retire this pair of the SL2 and pick up my second pair, I will most likely go up a half size to a US men's 11 and see how that fits, and if the shoe performs basically any different or any better by adding just a little more space. I do find that whenever I put the shoe on, it always feels just a little bit tight when I first put it on, or almost like it's not too small, but just like it feels more like a race day fit, which is what I said it felt like in the initial video. And I still stand by that. Like, it feels like a race day fit. And then as I start to run like a mile, 2 miles in, it does feel like it loosens up just a little bit. And I don't notice that, like, that feeling kind of goes away. But just be aware, if you are going to purchase the shoe, you should potentially go a half size to a full size up. And so the second con for the Adizero SL2 is really the mile limitation of the SL2. And now when I'm talking about mile limitation, I'm not just talking about the Adizero SL2. This is actually something that applies to basically all daily trainers, or the way I define the daily trainer of like that $100 to $130 range is most of the time these shoes are really only good up to about the half marathon distance. I mean, you can definitely take them for any mileage you want to. You could probably run a marathon in this and be okay, but will it be fun? Probably not. There always is a point with the shoe, which I think the farthest I've taken this is 12 miles. And that was about where I would say like it was its limitations of how many miles I would want to take on the shoe. The biggest problem with most daily trainers, like I said, if not all, is that kind of the way they're built to make them versatile and like the jack of all trades shoe is that they're not really built for like half marathon and beyond. You can still do it. Will it be fun? Probably not. Will your legs potentially feel beat up the next day? probably. And I would say that the Adizero SL2 is no exception to that rule. Adidas, even on their website, has this as like a medium distance shoe, stating that it's good for about 3 to 12 miles. And I would 100% agree with that. The one kind of silver lining to that con is the fact that I would argue majority of people training from the 5K all the way up to the marathon, the bulk of their mileage or volume in their training plan is never going to have them doing more than 8 to 10 miles a day for most of their like easy miles. So that means that a majority of your training, probably like 75 to 80% of your training, would be 10 miles or less a day, easy running. And fortunately, like I said, with the mile limitation being right around that 12, 13 miles, that means 75 to 80% of your training would still be able to be done in the Adizero SL2. All right, and so with all of that out of the way, I wanna answer that initial question that I had asked. Do I still believe that the Adidas Adizero SL2 is the best daily trainer of the year? And now I do wanna preface by saying, I do understand that it is now 2025. The SL2 came out in 2024, but unfortunately, because I got injured at the Marine Corps Marathon or like before the Marine Corps Marathon, I wasn't actually able to film this video when I wanted to do this video, and I wasn't able to put in the mileage to get 100 miles on the shoe. So it's happening in 2025. So let's just put like an asterisk next to that like best trainer of the year. And I'll answer that question. Do I still believe that the SL2 is the best daily trainer of the year? Asterisk 2024/2025. And honestly, I would say yes, I still believe that the Adidas Adizero SL2 is the best daily trainer of the year. Like I've already said, this shoe is extremely versatile. It's lightweight. It has the durability to go hundreds of miles, and it has great value at that $130 price point. Honestly, this is one of the funnest daily trainers that I've run with in a really long time. And I do believe it is the best, if not one of the best daily trainers currently on the market, especially at that price point. And so after 100 miles, would I still recommend the SL2 for your running shoe rotation? And if you haven't already guessed, it's a resounding yes. I believe the SL2 would be a great addition to your running shoe rotation. Just take into consideration that it may run a little short for you, so look at maybe going up a half a size. Other than that, I would highly recommend the SL2 being added to your running shoe rotation.